You've seen the ads, right? You're on a beach, you tap out a few killer lines on your laptop, and boom, the passive income just rolls in. It sounds amazing. But today we're going to pull back that curtain and get to the brutally honest truth. Let's get into it. So, the fantasy that gets sold online is all about that 4-hour work week, that write it once, earn forever lifestyle. And look, it's a powerful image, but the reality, it's a totally different world. We're talking deep, painstaking research, facing near constant failure and rejection, and the often tricky business of managing clients and their expectations. So, to save you from potentially months of frustration and thousands of dollars, we're going through a checklist. These are the 10 definite no's. Think of them as the absolute deal breakers that signal this career path probably isn't for you. It's a direct, no nonsense filter. First step, and this is probably the most critical test of all, your mindset. Notice we're not talking about your writing skill yet, that comes later. This is purely about your psychological and emotional resilience for when things inevitably get really tough. So let's be real. This career is not going to work out if you're someone who needs constant validation, or if you need every single piece of work you do to be praised. Same goes if you have a deep need to be right all the time, or if you're expecting to see income in the first 30 days. This path is a slow burn, not some instant win. Just let this quote sink in for a second. The job isn't about being right. It's literally about being wrong most of the time to find the one thing that actually works. You have to test, you have to iterate, and you have to understand that failure isn't some obstacle in your way. Failure is the process. And that mindset bleeds directly into our next filter, your fundamental approach to the work itself. This is all about the work ethic and the motivation that separate the people who succeed from those who just fizzle out. If the whole idea of passive income is what's driving you, or if deep down you just hate the act of writing, you find it painful, that's a massive red flag. And this might sound obvious, but if you don't like reading or digging into original research, if you just want to grab a template and fill in the blanks, you're never going to get beyond a very, very basic and low-paying level. And that's because real copywriting isn't a hustle, it's a craft. So what does that mean in practice? It means a serious commitment of 100 to 200 hours just to learn the fundamentals. And that's before you even start putting in the thousands of hours of practice it takes to actually get good. So beyond your work ethic, there's the question of how you think. This is about the intellectual and analytical gears that have to be turning to get real results. This is what separates someone who just arranges words from a true strategist. You have to be deeply, genuinely curious about what makes people tick. If you find psychology boring or you hate looking at numbers and data, you're missing half the equation right there. Great copy is built on understanding human behavior and then proving your ideas with data, all while following a structured process. And this chart really visualizes the reality of modern copywriting. Sure, there's definitely an art to it. But the vast majority, we're talking like 70%, is science. It's about testing, measuring, and systematic thinking. Today, that science part is absolutely non-negotiable. And finally, in our list of definite no's, we get to the most fundamental part of all, who you are at your core. These are the non-negotiable personal traits tied to integrity and self-awareness. If you think lying is just marketing, or if your goal is to manipulate people, please find something else to do. This isn't for you. And the same goes for people who refuse to do the internal work. If you have deep-seated psychological blocks, but you're the type to say all that mindset stuff is bullshit, then your own subconscious is going to sabotage your success every step of the way. Okay? So those were the hard no's, the absolute deal breakers. But what if you're kind of in a gray area? Well, this next section covers 3 big red flags. This isn't a definite no, but it's a proceed with extreme caution. Because to succeed here, you're going to need to make some very specific adaptations. First, for all my extreme introverts out there, if the very idea of a phone call gives you a genuine panic attack, this is going to be an impossible struggle. Client communication is absolutely essential. However, it can work if you're willing to develop what we'll call minimum viable social skills, and if you build your business around email and other asynchronous communication. Next up, for the pure artists, if you need total creative freedom and you get genuinely enraged when a client ruins your vision, you are going to be miserable. But if you can learn to reframe those constraints as creative challenges and you can separate your personal art from the commercial work, then you can absolutely thrive. And what if you have zero marketing experience, or you're starting from scratch? It's not going to work if you expect to get it right away. But if you're truly committed to learning and you're mentally prepared to feel like a total beginner for 6 to 12 months, then yes, you can absolutely build the skills you need from the ground up. So after all those warnings, you might be thinking, Who on earth actually makes it in this field? Well, that brings us to our final and maybe most important section. This is about that small percentage of people who are actually perfectly suited for this demanding but genuinely rewarding career. The brutal truth is that only about 10 to 20% of people who even try copywriting actually succeed long term. It's not because it's impossibly hard. It's because there's a huge mismatch between what they think the job is and the day to day reality. So, who are these 10 to 20%? They're the ones who genuinely want to be great at this, not just make a quick buck. They're willing to do whatever it takes. They think in years, not weeks. And crucially, they see this as a craft to be mastered, not a hustle. They fully embrace failure as a fundamental part of the journey. So if you've listened to this whole explainer and you're thinking, wow, this sounds way too hard, good. That clarity just saved you a massive amount of time, money, and frustration. You've successfully filtered yourself out, and now you can go pursue something that's a better fit. But if you heard all of that, the rejection, the deep work, the slow progress, the embrace of failure, and a little voice in your head got excited and said, challenge accepted, then welcome. You might just have what it takes.